Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate your time sitting here and listening and watching the podcast, the Onstage podcast. We're almost at our 400th episode, and that's going to be a big one. Everything changes. The mics, the look. I won't be wearing my hat. I'll be wearing a headphone. I'll basically looking like this guy right here, minus all the awards and hockey pucks, whatever that is behind him. But thank you, everyone, for joining us. So today, as you noticed right down there by his name there, which we'll put in later, of course. And to my left and your right is Randy C. Moore. He's a Texas born country artist whose career bridges generations, continents, and musical traditions. From recording his first singles at just 15 to performing at the legendary Grand Ole Opry, Randy has carved out a path marked by authenticity, craftsmanship, and passion. He's collaborated with icons. Listen to this: Carl Perkins, tour worldwide from Shanghai to Monaco, and appeared alongside legends such as, you ready for this? Bruce Springsteen, Bon Jovi, and Joe Ely for major benefit concerts. Wow, such an eclectic amount of people. Now, Randy is also a proud member of the European Country Music Hall of Fame, recognized for his impact both in the US and across Europe. His upcoming single from last year's Father's Day, Cats in the Cradle, but 2025, his 2026 single is called Forget Me Not. He will play both of those songs by the end of the show. Now, they both will be featured in the 2025 Amazon Prime documentary marking the song's 50th anniversary, standing alongside artists like, my God, Pat Benatar, Judy Collins, and Pressure Billy Joel. With critically acclaimed albums like Lufkin and Highway 59, Randy continues to shape the modern landscape of traditional country and Americana through masterful songwriting and storytelling. Randy, it's an honor to have you with us today. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you. That was that's almost an embarrassingly high intro.
Oh, your head's getting too big. No, I need a new laptop now.
Yeah,
Thank you.
huge. Whoa, it's blowing up.
I know. um, Before we begin, can you go back to the beginning? Like it says you were starting making records at 15 and were already getting airplay. What was driving you at that age to dive into the industry so early?
Well, I think what happened is I always wanted to be an artist, a painting artist, a visual artist, and then I found out that playing the guitar would get me more attention from girls. So I sort of wandered into that, and I backed into songwriting haphazardly after working with a band for a while. And then the band broke up, and all of a sudden I could hear some music in my head. I guess it wasn't as noisy in my room as it used to be. So I started writing songs, and they were country songs because I was a big fan of country records as well as rock records, and it sort of fused together a little bit for me. A guy named Arch Yancey, who was a very famous drive time disc jockey in Houston, Texas, and was also a friend of my dad's from high school. My dad called him up, and Arch said, "Sure, I'll help Randy." And so he listened to me. He thought, "Well, we need to get you in the studio," and so he introduced me to some guys to make some demos and stuff. The next thing you know, I'm headed off to Nashville, and I'm making some records, just connecting different dots and so forth and such. And I'm 15 years old, and it's kind of a new thing. It's exciting heck, when you're 15 years old, something like that is amazingly exciting. Being able to work in a pro studio environment and all that kind of stuff and everything, and having guys who are legends who are sitting there playing on the records, smiling
Mm.
at you, going, "Hey, all right, way to go, kid! You're doing all right." So I think through encouragement and through experience, it kind of kept me going in that direction. And when I finally made the move to Nashville after I graduated high school, things even picked up a little bit more. I actually got to be a guest on the Grand Ole Opry. I was working at
Wow.
at an amusement park there, which was a musical amusement park in Nashville called Opryland, USA. And I gained a lot of experience and networked and met a lot of people. Of course, back in 1979, you didn't call it networking, you called it hanging out. But things just kind of like, I don't know, they just kind of kept coming towards me, and I just kept doing things. And the more that I would do, the more I would learn, and the more that I was comfortable with it. So that's really kind of how things really started out in the beginning. It wasn't I don't know, it wasn't an ambitious drive, so to speak. And it certainly wasn't, I didn't have some crazy urge to have to express myself because I had, emotional problems or things like that. I had my home life was great. In fact, to this day, I tell people all the time, what would I say to my 16-year-old self if I
Yeah.
could talk to him? I'd say, "Man, don't leave home." so, I think it just had to do with the fact that things just kept coming to me naturally, and I kind of like doing things. I'm fairly lazy, so I like doing things that are sort of easy, and I don't have to really knock myself out for. And so I don't know. Eventually, I got better and better at what I was doing and had more confidence with it. And to this day, I'm still learning things and I'm still picking things up. And heck, I'll go back and I'll listen to stuff not only that I did, 40 years ago, but to what other people were doing 40 years ago. And I'd go, wow, how did I miss that? Okay, I need to get into that. And so I'm picking up stuff from the new, picking up stuff from the old all the time. So that's kind of a thumbnail sketch of getting it going, so to speak, for my musical journey.
I'm very interested in knowing. So, was Carl Perkins and Bruce Springsteen and Bon Jovi, were they the most famous musicians you ever met?
Yeah, I think so. As far as like people of notoriety, um, they. I'm just trying to think if there's anybody else I've hung around with. I mean, when I was in Monte Carlo, I hung around with Julian Lennon for a couple of nights.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Awesome.
so so there's been some interesting things that have just kind of just come my way simply by me being in the right place at the right time and having a fairly open mind and the right attitude about stuff. So yeah, but Carl, I would have to say of all the people I met, Carl has to be probably the absolute gem of a human being. A real natural, easygoing guy. The last thing you would guess is this guy was one of the most famous musicians in the world. He just did not act it. He just acted like, man, I'm just an everyday guy and you're an everyday person. And as long as you treat folks good, like I try to treat folks, then we're going to get along just fine. There was not a lot of pretense there. And living in Nashville, you kind of got used to seeing a lot of pretense with people who were label artists and who were having success in the entertainment industry. You sort of felt like, okay, well, if I'm hanging around any of these people, I'm bothering them because I'm not necessary. Carl never made you feel like that. He didn't make you feel like you were not necessary. He was one of those folks, and this is a good lesson for people who do this for a living. People who are actually the biggest stars that I've ever been around always treated people who were just regular people like they were something special. And that's a real important thing. That's a real gift. A lot of people wonder why Garth Brooks became such a
Hmm.
huge star. Yeah, he
Yeah.
made great records and he kind of knew all of his things as far as like dotting his i's and crossing his t's. But 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 Garth's greatest gift that he gave to himself was being able to remember people's names, their faces, who they were, what was going on with them. He could meet them one time and he would see them again in another 2 3 years, and he could ask how their kids were doing or how their job was or something. And people really love that. They love when someone who they look up to looks at them and makes them kind of feel special. So Carl was that guy. He was the guy who he to him everybody was on the same level.
Wow, yeah, I've spoken to several country singers. Many of them have mentioned that they worked with Dolly Parton, Barbara Mandrell,
Barbara
and some.
Mandrell.
Yeah, and I think I had one who actually said that literally worked with Lawrence Welk or the main accordion player. That I forget his name, but yeah, it was just absolutely amazing. Now, Randy, Houston radio personality Arch Yancey helped introduce your early work. What impact did mentors like him have on shaping your direction?
Well, Arch kind of saw that I was green enough to where I needed to have some experience. So he had when the nightclub called Gillies down in Houston, Texas was
Mhm.
getting popular, Arch had his own show that he did every Thursday night. So he would invite me out every Thursday night to be part of his set. So I got a lot of experience playing in front of crowds
Mm.
and being able to learn how to deliver songs and seeing their reaction and stuff like that. It was good experience. And not only that, it was good experience to hang around with Arch because everybody knew him in the music industry. Anybody who came through Houston knew Arch and would get together with him. And half the time we'd all be sitting at the table, me and my parents, Arch Yancey, and
Wow.
somebody like Floyd Tillman,
Oh.
or just a number of different people. I mean, that was back in the days when Johnny Lee was still just a club singer. So there were a lot of things going on in the 70s there in Houston, which I kind of endear myself to. Arch is at the top of the list simply because he kind of guided me and introduced me to people who he knew could kind of add to what I was doing and I would learn things from. So it was pretty cool. I'll tell you the story about Arch. He went to high school with my dad. They went to high school in Memphis, and my dad was a really, really good football player. He was an all Memphis, all Tennessee linebacker and guard. And Arch was a third stringer on the football team. And dad hardly remembered Arch, but Arch looked
Mm.
up to my dad. So when my dad called him up on the phone after years of not speaking to him, he was like, "Oh, I remember you. Yeah, yeah, yeah," And so it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool to see a guy like Arch Yancey kind of idolizing my old dad, which was it was neat. Uh, uh, Once again, I wouldn't trade it for anything, and it really helped me kind of get. I think it helped me get on the right foot because Arch was another one of those guys that everybody was on the same level. He made people feel like that they belonged. He made people feel good when he was around them.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. You mentioned about legendary Gillies. Now, I know you said you mentioned that you performed there regularly, but what did playing there teach you about live performance?
What did it teach me about the live
Yeah, yeah.
performance? Well, mainly what it taught me was, first of all, how to work with a band, how to kind of listen to the band, how the band was going to listen to me. So that dynamic was definitely a thing because up until that point, I'd either accompanied myself or played with a band that I would rehearse with a
Hmm.
lot. And this whole thing of actually sitting in with a band and just calling out the song and the key and just flying by the seat of your pants was a real good frying pan into the fire kind of a thing for a kid. Also, I could see how people were responding to songs. You'd get into a song and oh yeah, they'd start doing their head, or they'd get out there and they'd start dancing, and you'd go, you could actually see the positive effect and results that you were making as a performer and as an artist on a stage, where I tell people all the time these days when you see a video or something like that, somebody doing a video, that's all well and good, but they don't know how people are going to react to that song because they're not seeing anybody unless the video is actually a live concert performance. So that's really mainly what I learned from being able to be at Gillies on a Thursday night, on a weekly basis for almost a year at least, if not 2 years. I was going out there, and it really it helped a lot. I've actually I base a lot of what I do on how I learned how to perform there at Gillies. I base a lot of stuff on how I learned how to sing in my parents' living room, and any environment that I usually end up in. If I can make it as close to feeling like my parents' living room singing for their friends, that's the best way for me. I'm not a big fan of the big stage. I like smaller stages and more. I like for people to be closer to me.
When you go into a venue such as Gillies, wherever, do you go like this to test the echo, the acoustics, to make sure that your sound's going to resonate, or you just don't care as long as you get to play with people?
It just depends. Depends on if I'm having to deal, if I'm directly having to do the production as far as like set up the sound and everything, then yes, I'll go in and I'll kind of ring the room out and see what's going on. And then, as always, if it's a large system with a band, then I'm going to get out the old dreaded pink noise machine and ring the room out, and people hate
Yeah.
it, but believe me, it really helps a lot. But it's usually a lot of that kind of activity for me actually happens when I'm in a recording studio. I will try to sit down at the piano, or I'll sit down somewhere in the recording studio and get my guitar out, and I'll try to warm myself up as I warm the room up so I can get comfortable with it, so a lot of times in a live situation, even if you're there early and you can do stuff, it all changes when people show up. So you can get comfortable with it, but as soon as they get there, all of a sudden, all bets are off.
Yeah, that's true. So you mentioned about by high school graduation, you were appearing on the Grand Ole Opry. What do you remember most vividly from your first Opry moment?
Well, when I walked onto the stage of the Opry, the um, the show that I was on was basically led by a guy by the name of Roy Acuff, who was
I
called
remember
the king
him.
of country music. And
Yeah.
so it was Roy and his band and a lot of Opry staff players who were really great session musicians who played on the stage of that show. Um, I walked out and I was wearing an outfit that my grandmother had made me, and man, it was shiny. It had studs and sparkles all over it. So immediately, it was I think I was as captivated as anybody who might have been watching that show that night, because it was almost an out of body experience. And I'll tell you the truth, I don't I sort of remember it, but it went by so quickly. And I was on stage for a half an hour, but it went by so quickly I couldn't believe it. I mean, Roy would ask me questions and I would almost blank out when he would ask me a question. I'd go, what was that, Mr. Roy? And oh well, he would start talking. He was very comfortable on stage, which is another thing I've started to learn from people like him. It's like, it doesn't matter where you are, get comfortable, because if you're comfortable, then the people out there in the audience, or the people who are part of that experience, it's going to make them comfortable. So that's always been a key thing. And even to this day, when somebody says, man, you look like you're having fun up there, I said, look, if I'm not having fun, they ain't having fun. And if they ain't having fun, I'm probably not coming back.
Hey, I know I asked you that most only famous people that you played with, like Billy Joel, but I realize you opened for certain artists like Hank Williams Jr., Vince Gill, Amy Grant, and Leanne Rhymes. Leanne Rhymes is my favorite.
Yeah.
How do I live without you? So, what
Yeah.
did you learn from watching them work?
Well, actually, from Vince, from Vince, I learned, man, there is no end to actually learning how to play your guitar better, because people love that. So I tried to incorporate that into as much of my playing as I can. From Hank Jr., he's just like a presence. There are people, and Leanne Rhymes is like this too. There are people who walk on stage, and you've seen them, even if you weren't really crazy about them. As soon as you saw them under the spotlight, all of a sudden, the light went on. You went, "Wow, I get it. I get why this person is a celebrity. I get why people love them." Because there's a thing. It's called some people call it the X factor, but it has to do with having
Oh,
charisma. And charisma is something you really can't put your finger on, but it's these are people who know how to be in the moment. And it's very important, when you do what we do for a living, to not just be in the moment on the front microphone on stage, but be in the moment in the studio. Heck,
wow.
when you're walking around somewhere, you walk into a department store or a restaurant, be in the moment, be there.
Hmm.
Don't, if you want to be anonymous, that's fairly easy to do. But these are people who kind of taught me how to make your presence known without, I suppose, being forcible or being over the top obnoxious. You could just feel their presence. You just knew that there was something going on. Even if they were faking it, they knew what they were doing. So it's pretty cool being around people who have been in that position so many times that they develop a sense of charisma.
That's amazing, Randy. That's amazing. So your collaboration with Carl Perkins led to Big Bertha, which I like you to play for us. Now that was later recorded by Ronnie Millsap and Vince Gill. How did that songwriting partnership come together?
Well, I had written some songs with Carl, and he had this song that he had made up about a golf club. That what happened was is somebody stole his Big Bertha golf club that he had.
Mm,
Now, anybody who plays golf knows that a Big Bertha golf club is a nice big driver that you can hit the ball a long way with. And the Carl
mhm,
loved his. Well, when somebody took his out of his golf bag at the golf course, it made him mad, and he went home. He started writing a song about it, and his daughter said,
mm,
"Man, she said you need to finish that." And so I had been writing songs with him at the time, so they tapped me to kind of help him finish the song, and um, he never got a chance to record it because he was gone. Less than a year later, he was gone. But
mm.
I ended up recording it down at Sun Studio. I made a record of it, and I put that out a few years ago. But I didn't put it out until after Vince Gill and Ronnie Millsap had recorded as well. So let me do it now for you because it goes like
Okay,
this.
before you do that, so can you explain the type of guitar that you have? Is it a Fender? Is it a
This is a
Taylor?
this is an Eastman Dreadnought, and
Oh,
it's
wow.
basically it's a it's a direct rip off of a Martin, simply
Mm,
because
I love
I
it.
love Martin guitars, and I wanted something that was sort of like I don't know, a modern cousin of a Martin guitar. So it's called an Eastman. So
Well, here we go. Here's Randy C.
all right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sitting here wondering, where's my long tall baby now? Yeah, I'm sitting here wondering, where's my long tall baby now? 'Cause somebody came and stole her and left me on the bottom side of down. Whoa, yeah. Woo. Oh, I used to take her out on Saturday, and a swinging we would go. Hey, I'd take her out on Saturday, and a swinging we would go. Now I would do most anything just to swing that gal once more. She always felt like a dream right here in my hands. Any cat who's played around with her would understand why I'm bluer than a hound dog barking up a tree, crying, please, 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 Big Bertha, come on home to me. Oh, yeah. Well, I hope I never find him, the dude that took my gal away. Hey, I hope I never find him, the dude that took my gal away. 'Cause if I do, I'm telling you, he'll have the devil to pay. Oh, yes, he will. She always felt like a dream right here in my hands. Any cat who's played around with her would understand why I'm bluer than a hound dog barking up a tree, crying, please, 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 Big Bertha, come on home to me. Oh, let's see if I can pick a little bit. Well, I hope she's just a golf club, but she always set me free. Yeah, I know she's just a golf club, but she always set me free. So if you see my Big Bertha, tell that gal to hit a few for me. Woo! All right, four.
Love it. Woo! Love it. So there you go, everyone. Big Bertha. Big Bertha. Loved it. Thank you so much for performing for us.
Yes, sir.
Um, so you performed during the 2001 Alliance of Neighbors 9/11. That was really good playing. Really loved the tune. Thank you for sharing that with us. So in 2001, the Alliance of Neighbors 9/11 benefit concert was some of the biggest names in music, as we mentioned. How did that event affect your personality and artistically?
Well, I think what happened on that show, which actually, and I tell this to people all the time, um, because they'll say, "Well, what's the your favorite performance you've ever done?" I would have to put my all of my fingers basically on that one.
Mhm.
What happened was is obviously this was right after 9/11 in September, and the
Mhm.
people in New Jersey that we were performing for, which we didn't even know we were going to do at the time. It was supposed to end up being a concert that was for Harry Chapin's Why Hunger
Mm.
charity. And when the 9/11 attacks happened, they decided, well, we don't think we're going to do that. But they already had the date booked and they already had a few people booked. And then when they said, we're going to do this for the people of Monmouth County, most of these folks had people that they lost in the financial district and the Twin Towers. So, with that being said, a lot of other artists signed on to help out in the cause, help to raise the money, and
Mm.
basically put on a show that was sort of a healing show. They call it the Seeds of Healing. Was the title of
Mm.
the show. Um, what I got to do was they had invited me up because before all of this happened, I was going to go up there and we were going to be featured. I was going to be featured during a film showing of an independent film about Sun Records down in Memphis. So I was going to do Carl Perkins songs, and Sonny Burgess was going to do some songs, and they were going to have
Mm.
DJ Fontana, the guy who played drums with Elvis, and they were going
Yeah.
to have,
Wow.
and he was there. Yeah, he was actually there. He actually played
Uh-huh.
on my set with me.
Love it.
They were going to have Scotty Moore and different people. They were going to pull as many people who were still around from the Sun Record days up there to be part of that. Well, once the show changed, they kept all of us who were going to be coming from Tennessee and from Memphis on the show, but they kind of made our part a little more condensed because all of a sudden there were a lot more people who wanted to be on this show.
Mhm.
John Bon Jovi and Richie Sambora wanted to be on it. Bruce Springsteen, Phoebe Snow, Joe Ely, Joan Jett,
Wow.
um, um, Henry Gross, Felix Cavalier of the Rascals, Smithereens. Was a really diverse show. It was 3 hours long, actually. But
Wow.
what I did for my part is I came out and sang a couple songs, and I got to actually use everything that I've ever grown up with and ever felt good about or felt right about, which is I'm a true believer in the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm a true believer in spirituality. And so I got to basically minister to people backstage, which I'd never done before, pray for people who were their family were victims of this terrible attack, and then I
Mhm.
got to go out and I got to sing to them, and I got to do things in that one show that I never really imagined I'd be able to do in front of an audience and actually be able to maybe do as much good as I could in such a short amount of time. And I tell people all the time, if I had died, right after that, then I would have said, and I say to this day, um, if I came to Earth to do one thing, that was it. That was the one thing I came to this world to do, was to be
Mhm.
on that show, be part of that experience, and be part of something that helped lift people up at their lowest point. So
Wow.
that's kind of what my take was on doing the Alliance of Neighbors show in October of 2001.
Wow. Yeah, and having to do it around that time too. We
Well,
had a Christian.
I'll tell you, it was the first. It was actually the first concert. It was 2 nights, and it was the first concerts that were put on uh, uh, after the attacks. There had been nothing going on, and then they moved it. It was going to be on Friday and Saturday of that weekend, but they were doing the concert in Madison Square Garden with Paul McCartney on that Saturday. So they moved it back to Thursday, Friday. So we were Thursday, Friday, and then Paul McCartney was Saturday in Madison Square Garden.
Mm,
So it was pretty cool.
wow. Yeah, that's quite something. We had a Christian artist by the name of Melissa Pedignano, and she lost an aunt in 9/11.
Mm.
And then I had a few that actually were. I mean, he's a band member, and he's got his own band, and he sings great. But he was working as one of the firemen, and he went actually inside the World Trade Center to save people. So it's the amazing stories that you hear. I mean, you're not just a musician; you have a story. You know.
I once again, I was just in the right place at the right time, and I was able to take stuff that I was feeling and kind of move me to just offer whatever help I could. To this day, like I said, if I had died, the night after that whole performance, I would have said, well, this is what I came to Earth. This is what I came to Earth to do.
Well, Randy, how about performing outside U.S.? How did that change your perspective of country music? Like you toured worldwide, China, Monaco, the Middle East, Europe. What was that like?
Well, the first time I went overseas, I performed with a band over in Saudi Arabia. We performed for oil company camps over there. We were over there for a month, and that was a strange experience because whenever you're in Saudi Arabia, it feels like you're on another planet. You know, you know, half the time you don't feel like you're in the 20th century. But
Mm.
then much later, I was booked to go play in Monte Carlo. And so I was sitting with a guy that I produced records with. His name is Norbert Putnam. And people would know Norbert because he was the guy who produced Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville and most of those
Mm.
records. And he also was Dan Fogelberg's record producer. And Norbert, very famous as a bass player too, played on a lot of great records from the 60s and from the 70s. So
Hmm.
anyway, Norbert and I were talking, and he looked at me. He says, "Well, he says, I'm going to tell you something, Randy." He says, "When you get over there, you're going to find out that music is the best export that we have from the United States." And he was not kidding because whenever whenever I would play something that was uniquely from here, like a Johnny Cash song or a Roy Orbison song or one of my songs or something, people would get excited. And I'll tell you, this happened in China too, even more because um, they there's something about the music that we make here in the United States that's unique to any other kind of thing in the whole world. It's completely unique to us. And I'll tell you what the secret is. The secret is because the music that we have got fused with black music and gospel music early on to
Mm.
create blues and create jazz. And the creation of blues and jazz and gospel music is where rock and roll came from. And all of that improvisation and all of that shaking and all that praying and all that stuff, that all turned our music, and it all gave it this loose energy that no other form of music in the world has, and no other musicians seem to have it, simply because they didn't really grow up around it. I grew up around it. Heck, I grew up listening to Smokey Robinson and to, the Monkees and to Elvis
Hmm.
Presley and to
Me
Johnny
too.
Cash and
Yeah.
Jerry Lee Lewis and things like
Temptations.
that.
Yeah.
Things that just had this loose energy, and it's in a way, it's like the sound of freedom because it's a little dangerous sounding. Henceforth, the reason why you couldn't, for many years, you couldn't hear one note of rock and roll in the Soviet Union over any sort of state radio station. You had to get it across the Iron Curtain.
Wow. Yeah.
So we are, to coin a phrase or to coin a term, we are blessed with the unique ability and the unique roots of true music that has feeling here in the United
Mm.
States. A lot of people have required it simply because it's gone around and around now so much that, there's great music that comes from everywhere. But believe me, remember, it started here. That music that has that loose feeling to it that gets everybody excited. I'd go over to China, I'd play Country Roads, and I play it loose and everything, and they're going crazy, and I'm like going, wow, you got it was like I was pouring water on people who were on fire.
Yeah, that's true, Randy. I know you've been praised for painting vivid stories through your lyrics. What does your writing process look like from idea to finished song?
um when I start writing a song, it's usually actually most songs that I come up with are things that kind of happen in this room right here that we're looking
Mm.
at, and it's usually very early in the morning. So there's a lot of silence. There's a lot of solitude. So there's not a whole lot of excitement that gets these songs going. It actually is just the opposite. I tell people a lot of times, they say, what inspires you most? I say boredom. Man, just big empty space makes me want to fill it with something, I suppose. And that's when I start hearing things in my head and hearing things on
Mm.
this guitar. So but my one of my main goals in in composing a song is a have that idea that is connected to a tangible story or a tangible feeling, that I'm feeling, that I feel. I've found that the more personal that I make these things that I express, they seem to actually work a lot better simply because it's a true honest expression. I mean, I've been in songwriting sessions many, many, many times and, written ditties and ear candy and until, my fingers would fall off and the lead turned to stone in the pencil. Um, but there's just nothing like something that's like grounded and truly just honest from the get-go, and the only way to do that is just bring it out of yourself, and the only way to bring it out of yourself is to learn as much as you can and get as much experience as you can and listen to those outside voices for a while, and then when you get to a point like I did, you just shut them off and you go, okay, I think I know what I need to do here.
Mm.
All I got to do is sit back and let this thing start to happen, and usually it does. So it's a pretty important way. It's the only way that works for me. The process always works with a big gap. There's not a there's very few times that I've written songs under the gun or under the pressure. Then my hat's off to people who can do that. There are people who are so talented and so great at that I mean, songs just roll out of them. That's not really me. It's more like it kind of more like has to fall out of me, and I have to recognize it and pick it up and go, oh, hey, oh, here we go.
Yeah, so it's like most of they start with melody, concept, a single line. I've talked to some musicians who literally just walk out and they see like the sky and they see the trees and they have a song. Others just are playing something fantastic. They say, let's put lyrics to it, so people, or they wake up in the morning and say, I got a song, something. So it works like that.
Well, your creative side, there's different ways that people tap into it. I mean, one of the best ways I've found that ideas come to me, not really being able to, apply them to this or to that back there, but the a lot of times the genesis of ideas that I get come from doing things that are kind of like automatic things, like taking a long drive somewhere, you
Hmm.
know. those big gaps, out there on the road. Okay, you kind of got everything going in auto. Your eyes are helping you, and your ears, and all these different things. So all of a sudden, there's this whole part of your brain that's being set free because you're not really processing anything, because what you're doing is you're doing these things that are kind of automatic to you. And when you
Hmm.
get into that zone, there's this other part of your brain that says, "Oh, it's time for me to play." So you start playing, and all of a sudden, these little ideas and things start to happen. So
Of
uh,
course.
it's a process that some people are able to just kind of like just put
Hmm.
put it in, and then some people it just has to just kind of has to fall out of me. I just can't just like turn it on and turn it off, you know. And then there'll be times where once I start writing, or once I start working on a song, there'll be three or four others that come after that, immediately after that. And so I just keep it flowing until I just finally get to a point where I go, I think that's all I got. I think that's all that seems to be there. And it's funny because a lot of the songwriting things that I do, like this new single I've got, "Forget Me Not," that came along, and as I was working with that a little bit, another two or three songs came right in behind it, that were just, I just happened to be in that zone. And so I like getting into that zone, but sometimes, it's kind of hard to find. So I try not too hard to look for it. I just try to let it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Your albums often feel autobiographical. Um, Autobiographical. How
Yeah.
do you balance personal truth with storytelling craft?
Well, I mean, personal truth and storytelling craft, um, they seem like they're two different things, but usually if I'm drawing from something, if it's not personal, I'm drawing from something that's familiar, something that somebody else has told me, something that my mom told me,
Mhm,
a word, a phrase, something that just kind of fell out and stuck with me in my head. All
mhm,
those things sort of, it's a little bit like what they say that artificial intelligence does, which basically draws from, thousands and thousands of databases to create something, or to emulate something that seems like it's creative. It's the same thing with writing songs. You're sitting here, and you have this big gap, and all of a sudden, you've got something that feels like it's going to go somewhere, and then you start drawing from these things in your database, so to speak, things that
mm.
you've heard, things that you haven't even thought about in 20 or 30 years. All of a sudden, bam, they're right there. A lot of songs that I write, heck, they've been laying around for 20 years or so, and all of a
Mm.
sudden the light will go on over my head, and I'll go, "Oh my gosh, I got it. I know what to do." And it'll be just a little short trip from sitting here with a guitar to basically committing it to a tape or something like that.
Well, I love the song, "Forget Me Not." Could you actually, play that for us?
Yes, yes.
Great, great. That's the newest one that just came out, right?
This is another song, that I tried writing at a song,
Mhm.
and a lot of times I've found out that if I try too hard on a song, I'll just write myself completely out of it and forget it. And that's too bad, because I think I probably maybe have lost a lot of good ideas simply because I was just like, that's going nowhere, never will. So I was starting to try to do something for a gospel show that I was doing
Mm.
up in Carthage, Texas, a couple of years ago, and it never would come to fruition. And I thought, okay, I need to lay this down. I like the idea,
Mm.
but I don't know. I have no idea how to get there, or what it's even going to do. So let it go, left it, and I was talking with my wife about a year ago. I guess I was talking with her. She was telling me about how she grew up and how things, happened for her and everything. And I thought, okay, all of a sudden now this story can be somewhere. This is a good narrative. So I plugged it into this idea for "Forget Me Not," and boom, it was all right there. So it goes like this. Forget me not, oh Lord, I pray. If I make it home, will you let me stay? Though I've forsaken you and lost my way, like a thief on the cross, forget me not. I was a child with a home in the sunlight, barefoot and walking in fields of gold, until one night, one callous evening, I started down that long dark road.
Mm.
Forget me not, oh Lord, I pray. If I make it home, will you let me stay? Though I've forsaken you and lost my way, like a thief on the cross, forget me not. Chilly
Mm.
autumn winds blow leaves from the garden, so goes my soul where it never stays. My body's weary, and when I lay it down, in dreams I hear my mama say, forget me not, oh Lord, I pray. If I make it home, will you let me stay? Though I've forsaken you, lost my way, like a thief on the cross, forget me not. With a soul that's lost, forget me not. Oh Lord my God, forget me not. Mm.
Preach it, brother. Love it.
Thank you.
Love it. Is that the most challenging song you've ever written?
No,
Or no?
I don't. I'm just trying to think. When songs are challenging, it's really hard to finish them because the best things I have found are rooted in simplicity,
Mm.
and so I've steered away. I've steered away from complicated things purposely, simply because um, the simpler that I keep them, the easier it's going to be for me to do this thing live in front of people and actually get the feeling across and get the narrative across that I need to do.
Mhm.
So, when I write songs that are those rockabilly numbers, those can be a little challenging, but they're only challenging me rhythmically, not really lyrically. It's fun to bounce around lyrics and do all that kind of stuff and everything. Um,
Exactly.
I've worked in the theater a little bit enough to know that semantics and and phrasing and the way that you deliver things are very, very important. They're just as important as the printed word themselves, simply because what we do here for a living when we're playing these instruments and we're singing these songs and everything, what we're doing is we're selling emotion is what we're doing. It's a feeling that we're conveying, and that's what we try to communicate in these little instances that we call songs.
Yeah. You've been playing over 25 years because, of course, you mentioned you're playing during 2001 as well. Now, have you noticed that technology has transformed music production distribution? What changes have you noticed over the decades?
It's a lot cheaper to make a record than it used to be.
Mm.
And if you learn enough stuff, then you can really make your own records and do your own overdubs and do your own post production and things like that. That's really what I've arrived at. Um, I love working in the studio with a band, but a lot of times time and funding doesn't afford me that luxury. So I go the other direction. I I do it as guerrilla warfare. Sneak up under everything and do this and do that, and learn how to do this and do that. And um,
Hmm.
it's funny because when you make records, a lot of people think, well, you do the same thing all the time. Well, actually, no. I found out that every one of them sounds different, and every one of them seems to come together a little differently. They're almost like their own thing. A
Mm.
lot like snowflakes are like children. They have their own unique little personality. So technology has helped me simply because uh, the recording industry and the recording machines and things like that are a lot less bulky, and they're inexpensive. They're very efficient. Um, I don't. I mean, back in the '70s and the '80s, to make a record like I can make today, I would have to have a full blown recording studio. I'd have to have an
Mm.
engineer, and I'd have to have an assistant who knew how to basically calibrate tape machines and things of
Mm.
that nature. So I don't have to do any of that. None of that is even on the radar screen now, because everything's kind of been done for me technically. So all I got to do is try to use my ears as best as I can to recreate what I'm hearing in my head and what I feel like is a solid record. So,
How do you feel about AI generated music and songwriting tools becoming more common?
well, I'm glad you used the word tools, because that is the thing I always tell people all the time. It's AI is here. It's basically making its footprint known in many things. Um, as long as people can use it as a tool, I don't. It doesn't bother me. I mean, I may end up using AI at this point for an animation cartoon project that I've
Wow.
developed, um, simply because it can do all the busy work for me. All I got to do is tell the stories, uh, make up the storyboards, and I've already got all the animation mapped out. But I need something to be able to do all the busy work, and AI can do the busy work for somebody like that. As far as it being a creative tool, um, I think people can learn from it, especially.
Mhm.
I know when I was writing songs when I was 20 or 19 or
Mm.
21 or 25, I know if AI had been around and I had been listening to songs that AI wrote, or if I had given ideas into a program and I would be able to learn a lot from the way that a song is assembled, the way things work, the way
Mhm.
melodies and different things work, and so even though AI is a machine, it does things um, that are based on not just predictability, but on things that have worked in the past, and it's a myriad of things. It draws from everything. It doesn't. It's not a narrow thing. So. Um, I, I would say that it's not really a bad thing, but then again, as with all things that are mechanized,
Mhm.
somebody's always going to use it for a disadvantage or disadvantageous thing, which is, well, we'll just create artists and we'll create records and everything, and nobody's going to have to play on it, nobody's going to sing on it, and we'll just put it out, and we'll have 100% profit margin because all we had to do was purchase the software, and the computers did everything else. That all sounds like fun, but um, I just don't know if it's going to stick. Who knows? I mean, the way we consume music today is so different than we did 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago. Who knows what's going to happen 20 years from now, 30 years from now? AI is definitely going to be in it, and it's not, nobody's going to get rid of it. It's not going to go away. It's not a fad. But anybody who does what we do for a living, you're included in this, has to understand that anybody who survives in the entertainment industry survives simply because they know how to adjust and adapt to the changes. Uh, and AI is definitely a changer. It's not a complete game changer, but it changes the face and changes the the manipulation of ideas. Look, uh, I'll be the first to admit, when I write songs and when I do records, I'm not drawing from completely, totally original things that came up with. I'm drawing from things that I've heard in the past, things that I've experienced, things that I like, you know. In a way, a machine is told, "Hey, these are things I like. This is what I want this song to sound like," and so the machine does all that. The sad part about that is it takes away kind of the journey or the fun that somebody has who's a musician or a songwriter or a creative person. Kind of takes away a lot of the fun that it is of actually doing that, of actually taking a 68 Camaro and doing a ground up renovation and going, wow, it looks just like it did when it rolled off the showroom and came out of Detroit. It's a whole different thing now to have a machine do your ground up renovation on your 68 Camaro, and you go, okay, yeah, that looks great. That's really good. I just didn't really do anything, but I like the way it looks. So hands on, I'm still going to be a fan of hands on. That's what I do. But AI is a tool, like you said in the beginning, and hopefully everybody will use it as a tool.
Most people you think that AI is a threat to musicians, and do you find it a threat or a potential creative partner? I asked that because I know Rick Beato, the rock artist, guitarist Rick Beato, he hates AI music, but he did something on talk show that he didn't want to do. But what he did is he showed how this Suno Udio whatever was able to create a song,
I watched
and
it. I
yeah,
saw.
he created Sadie Winters and then Walking Away, and it was a good song.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
people are saying, yeah, it makes better music. And I had Paula Cole on. She's a Canadian singer, and she always said, I'd rather listen to real music from real musicians, real instruments. And I can't blame her. So, how about you? Is it a threat or would it be a creative partner for you?
Um, uh, for me, it would just be a creative partner because um, I don't make, first of all, I don't make my living off of making records. I'm not a
Mm.
record producer. I'm not a session musician by trade. I'm not a session engineer by trade. So, all of those skills, which I have, but I don't necessarily count on those for a paycheck. My paycheck comes when I'm playing live
Hmm.
or when I'm actually, doing. Believe me, the royalty streams and all that kind of stuff aren't very big, as they used to be, is what they say. They're out there, and people are making tons of money off of the things that I just described. But I don't see it personally as a threat to me, simply because I'm not someone who makes my living doing that. Now, given that, um, I can see where people would go, well, man, you're taking work away from me. Well, like I said before, uh, if you're going to do this, if you're going to be in this, and no matter how much you may hate it, you got to learn to adapt to things and learn to use them, use them to your advantage. And listen, he was the very first one. Once he finished that stuff, he was like, I got to admit, this is really good. You know, he's not saying that he's going to be doing it or using it or anything like that, but he did say, look, there's no doubt that this thing knows what it's doing. But that doesn't mean that it is going to be a replacement um, for live music, obviously. And if it's a replacement for people who make records, then I don't really know what to tell you, because the record industry has been suffering from market share uh,
Mm.
deprivation for quite some time now. It used to be the record industry had a very big lion's share of what the income stream and what the profit margin was off of entertainment properties. It's been slowly shrinking simply because people have more options these days than they ever had before. Um, if I had had an Xbox back when I was 11 years old, I probably wouldn't have gone out and bought American Pie by Don McLean and played the 45 on my
Mhm.
on my turntable.
Yeah.
I probably would have said, "Hey, I need another Xbox game, to play. I need another thing to plug into my gaming machine." Same thing with film and with television and with streaming and all these kind of things that people are getting now, from Roku, Netflix, and all the different opportunities that people have for entertainment. It's not that there's less music out there to buy. It's that there's more options for people to get other things that they're doing. So music, by and large, is it's scratching and clawing for a place to survive in, and
Mhm.
AI is probably not helping that a whole lot. AI is probably basically shrinking that whole thing even more because, um, music. It's I guess in a weird sort of way, it's becoming. It seems like it's becoming less valuable, in on the surface, and the reason why I say that is because, um, when I was growing up, and I keep referring to back when I was younger, my parents had a record collection. They cherished
Mm.
that record collection.
Wow.
That was something. Oh man, the albums and the stereo system, and it was a man. It was like a ritual to play those albums and listen to those things, and now we hear music all the time. We're inundated with it all the time. There is so much noise out there. It's crazy. So it seems like the experience of listening to music has come down a few notches, simply because, it was really something to acquire something back then, to acquire an album from an artist that you loved. Now, you can stream it, you can download it. The newer generation. It's all about the access, not about the acquisition of these, prized things. But, okay, well, yeah, sure, all right, I'll add that to my list. I add that to my favorites, stuff like that.
Mhm.
It's a different sort of thing. So once again, adapt. You have to adapt. You have to figure it out. The record labels, they're gonna have to do it. Everybody's gonna have to learn to adapt. AI is right here on the verge, if not already doing it. Yeah, AI is going to be making feature films. There are probably contracts that have run out and stipulations that have run out on major movie stars, from the turn of the century or from the 30s or the 40s or the 50s, that their images may well be almost like public domain now. You may end up seeing a new John Wayne movie, before long. Who knows?
Or It's a Wonderful Life Part Two with Jimmy Stewart, who's George Bailey 10 years later. So yeah, I
Exactly.
know.
Exactly.
Um, I I want to ask about the AI thing. I mean, I don't see what the point of people use Pro Tools, GarageBand, they use Beats, they use all these software programs, um, just to put some sort of, I don't know, violin or drum roll or whatever in their song. But when it talks about AI writing an entire song for you, how long? You said there was one that took you 20 years to write before one day you were like, "Oh, yeah, that's it. That's the line I need." Was it 20 years?
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
you know how long it took Rick Beato to create that song "Walking Away"?
I
Two
think
minutes.
I've watched it. It was like maybe like less than 10
Two
minutes.
minutes.
Yeah.
2 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but but people like I know someone who actually just started using Udio Suno, and she's got almost a full album out,
Yeah.
and she created her own record company. She's got her um writers and songwriters and everything who use AI, and I'm like, okay, some people like it, some people don't, you know. But what do you think about music and mental health? Like many of your songs explore nostalgia, loss, family, and life lessons. Does songwriting serve as a form of emotional processing for you?
I think so. I think the thing that happens with me with writing songs, especially ones that I feel, can get out of this room and I can share with other people.
Hmm.
Um, I like to see what happens with them. I like to see if what I'm feeling about, an expression or an emotion or a story, uh,
Hmm.
find somebody else going, "Hey, hey, what was that? Hey, I really like that." Now, Oh, that's your, oh yeah, boy, that really made me. I've got this song that I wrote about me and my dad going fishing, and every time
Mm.
I play it, somebody comes up to me that they like to go fishing with their dad, and they'll get real sentimental about it, and I'll go, all right, I'm going
Oh,
to keep
yeah.
playing that song because it reminds someone of something good. And
Either
that's
yours or "Live Like You Were Dying" by Tim McGraw, who wrote that about his father. He went fishing, went skydiving.
Well, I
So
know the
same
guy who
thing.
wrote that. Tim Nichols wrote that song, and Tim is a great songwriter, and Tim tapped into a feeling with that song, which it's a common theme with anyone who listen. We all want to live out loud and go all the way, but most of the time we just don't do it. A, we either
Mhm.
don't have the courage, or B, we don't want to break our leg. Yeah, I mean that's a good example of a song that tapped into a feeling, tapped into a message, and it was widely accepted. Not just because Tim McGraw did the record; it was a great song, but it ended up being a great record too.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a few more questions for you if you don't mind, but some of these are they really gut wrenching. And before you play "Cats in the Cradle," I want to ask you, um, what if someone came up to you and said, "Mr. Moore or Randy, whatever, I love your music. I just heard you play the other day, whatever. I want to do what you do." So, what advice would you give younger artists dealing with stress, pressure, or emotional burnout in the industry?
Well,
Okay.
uh, first of all, if that's happening to them, then they're doing the wrong thing. I mean, there was a famous line from a football coach called Bum Phillips, who coached a team called the Houston Oilers years ago. I used to watch him, and Bum was an assistant coach before he was a head coach, and his
Mm,
coach was a guy named Sid Gilman, and they were breaking down game film one day, and Sid Gilman was watching with Bum, and he turned the film off for a second. He looked at Bum. He said, "You know what? I got to tell you something. Reviewing game film is better than sex." And Bum looked at Sid and said, "Sid, I think you're doing something wrong." So, I would say if doing a music thing is creating that much pressure and that much stress and everything, then you don't need to be doing that. You need to find a way to do it where you
mhm,
can, like, free yourself from that, because the pressure and the stress comes from expectations, and those expectations are usually uh, conjured up by people who are around you, or what you're seeing around you, or what you're feeling like you're not doing, or
mm,
where you feel like you need to be but you're not. And when you set your expectations, and I'm not talking about goals, but when you set your expectations
mhm,
at a certain level and stuff like that, and you don't reach those, then all of a sudden frustration sets in. Well, frustration will create that sense of pressure, that sense of burnout, because let's face it, you can easily get burned out if you're feeling frustrated all the time.
mhm,
So the easiest way out of that is just don't get into it. Set some goals, be true to yourself. Do what you feel is right, because when you're in the middle of all this kind of stuff, there are people who are record producers, A&R people, record label people, publishers, song pluggers, agents, managers, promoters. You got all these different people who are involved in the entertainment industry and would be have a vested interest in your career if they feel like you're going somewhere. Okay, they're all going to tell you something that you need to be doing. It's
mm,
all well and good to listen to advice, but don't take it as the gospel, because you know what? They're guessing. They don't know. So I can tell a young person right off the top of my head, anybody who tells you they know what's going on, you can say, no, you don't, because I
mhm.
don't know what's
Yeah.
going on. So, the best thing a person can do in my position, or in the position of an artist songwriter, is be true to yourself. Those people, they can all get somebody else to tell stuff to. You only
Mhm,
have one you. You got to take care of you first. So be true to yourself. Stick with what feels right to you, and And if you can, make sure that whatever you create, make sure you have enough vision to go, is this going to make me cringe 20 years from now when I hear it? Stay grounded in something that you're gonna feel good about. So
Yeah, it's like Thunderstruck by AC/DC. Really, I'm not really much into death metal or whatever it's called, but I do like the I like that. I like those riffs.
yeah.
Um, but okay. So before we come up with our final question, I know that your upcoming appearance in the Amazon Prime 50th anniversary documentary for Cats in the Cradle. How does it feel to be part of such an iconic tribute? And can you please play that song?
Hey, yeah. Let me get something here.
Okay.
So here's how that all came about for me to be in that film documentary. I have a friend who is a film producer, and he was involved very much. He was actually involved in the 9/11 show that I did. His name
Yeah.
is Rick Korn, and Rick got involved with the Harry Chapin family and everything, and started working with them because they had a story to tell, Harry's story.
Mm.
So and Harry was a very much an activist. He was very much alive as far as like when he was around. Um, he never let any dust settle around him. He was always doing something, and he was always trying to make a difference somewhere when he was doing so. In fact, um, the reason why he was so busy was he wouldn't say no to charity shows. He
Yeah.
about half of the shows he would do every year were like for charity. And other artists would go, "Why are you doing all this?" And he goes, "Because I want to." So when this film
Cool.
came along,
Hmm.
Rick called me and he said, "Hey," he said, "Randy," he said, "I want you to be in this film." And I said, "Well, who else is in it?" And he started naming people off that they had interviewed and they had talked to. And I said, "Well, people like Billy Joel and
Hmm.
Judy Collins." And I said, "What do you want me for? Are you trying to bring your ratings down?" He goes, "No." He says, "I really respect you as a creative person, a songwriter, an artist." He said, "I'd like to get your take on the song Cats in a Cradle. It's 50 years old, and that's what the film basically is about. It's a celebration of the song Cats in the Cradle." And he said, "I wonder how it affected you, if you had any insights on it personally." And so I shared all of that. And then I said, "Look," I said, "I actually play this song live." I said, "I've got my own little version of it that I do. It's not exactly verbatim from Harry's version." He said, "Oh, we'll play it." So I played it. And so he played a little bit of that for the Harry Chapin family. And they said, "He needs to put this out. This is really good."
Hmm.
So I sort of had their blessing to do this. So it goes like this.
Nice.
A child arrived just the other day. He came to the world in a usual way, but there were planes to catch and bills to pay. He learned to walk while I was away, and he was talking for a new. And as he grew, he said, "I'm gonna be like you, Dad. You know I'm gonna be like you." And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, the little boy blue and the man in the moon. When you're coming home, Daddy, don't know when. We'll get together then, Dad. You know we'll have a good time then. My son turned 10 just the other day. He said, "Thanks for the ball, Dad. Come on, let's play. Can you teach me to throw?" I said, "Not today." He looked at me. He said, "That's okay." And I heard him say as he walked away, he said, "I'm gonna be like him. Yeah, you know I'm gonna be like him." And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, the little boy blue and the man in the moon. When you're coming home, Daddy, don't know when. We'll get together then, Dad. You know we'll have a good time then.
Wow.
Well, he came from college just the other day, so much like a man I just had to say, "Son, I'm proud of you. Can you sit for a while?" He shook his head and he said with a smile, "What I'm feeling like, Dad, is borrow the car keys. See you later, can I have them, please?" and the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon. Little boy blue and the man in the moon. When you're coming home, sonny, don't know when. We'll get together then, Dad. You know we'll have a good time then. Long since you're tired, my son moved away. I called him up just the other day. I said, I'd like to see you if you don't mind. He said, I'd love to, Dad, if I could find the time. You see, the new job's a hassle, the kids with the flu. But it's sure nice talking to you, Dad. It was sure nice talking to you. And as I hung up the phone, it occurred to me he'd grown up just like me. My boy was just like me. And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon. Little boy blue and the man in the moon. When you're coming home, sonny, don't know when. But we'll get together then, Dad. We're gonna have a good time then. We're gonna have a good time then, yeah. Gonna have a good time then.
Wow. Amazing. Great. Great. You
Thanks,
did a
man.
great cover of that song. Great cover of that Harry Chapin song. You ever thought of playing it or singing any Jim Croce, like, "Well, if I could spend time in a bottle"?
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Those are great songs. Those singer songwriter people from the '70s. They made a real impact on my music for sure because they could tell you a story, but it would have emotion in it and feeling, and then it had some intangibles in it that you could kind of like attach yourself to a lot of times. Pretty cool.
Well, let's ask you this closer question, though. Thank you for being on our podcast and for the interview. Really appreciate the amount of time. You're so generous with your time. So, Randy, after everything you've accomplished, what still inspires you to pick up the guitar and write?
Um, I don't really know. I mean, probably just goes back to space and boredom and new things that happen, or
Wow.
old things that I completely forgot about that come back around again. So I just, when you say inspiration, a lot of times that's supposed to be some big, thing that falls out of the sky like lightning
Hmm.
or something, and that just never happens for me. I just there's no lightning bolts or thunder or anything like that. It's fairly quiet and under the radar, and it just kind of sneaks up on me, and all of a sudden it's right there in front of me. So I just keep making music and trying to maybe make a difference as much as I can.
Well, thank you, Randy. Really appreciate that. Thank you for being on the podcast. Thank you, Ginny, for setting this up and quite a team. And you have her on your side. I suppose that's your wife, right?
Actually, my wife is Linda, and Linda is
Okay.
the one who listens to all of these songs at the breakfast
Okay.
table. And if they don't get by her, then they don't get out of this house.
Well, Ginny Foley is the one that promotes you,
Jenny's my
right?
promoter. She does my record promotion and does all my online stuff as far as like getting things out there on Facebook and social media and junk like that.
Well, I got to tell you, your wife Linda really has a good man, and you great singer songwriter, great country artist. And thank you, Ginny Foley, for everything you've done to bring Randy C. Moore on the podcast. Really excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Um, you're welcome, everyone. All his information will be linked down below. All his songs, all his music. We can follow him, social media, everything. We'll make sure everything's there. Thank you, Randy. Thank you so much for spending this much time. Hope I didn't take too much of your time, but
No,
thank you so
thank you.
much.
I
You're
appreciate the
welcome.
time and God bless you and God bless your folks out there who are tied into you.
Thank you. And God bless your folks and everyone in your family as well. Okay, everyone, we're going to end the stream. Bye, Randy. Wait right there.